Hey guys, welcome to today's episode on Pathways. And today I have with me Joel. And Joel is one of those creators that I actually met on X a while ago. And I decided that I wanted to talk more with him. And I had a conversation with Joel a couple of weeks ago. And it was a wonderful conversation as a preparation for this podcast episode recording. And I would like to welcome Joel warmly and with all my heart to this podcast episode. And please tell me, Joel, tell me more about yourself. Who are you?
Yeah, thanks for the welcome, man, and thanks for bringing me in because I always have a really good time talking with you, and I just find your questions very expansive. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with. But yeah, as for me, I'm someone that's probably quite hard to pin down in terms of what I do, because that's often the question we use to get a feel for each other, right? But uh, yeah, over my adult life, so the last 15 years, I've pretty much I've been pretty transient. I've been living around the world and traveling from one place to another. Initially, that was as a ski coach. So I was in the snow sports industry, going around the world, working with people on the mountain, making amazing connections every day, and really what it comes down to, that game is all about exploring and pushing limits and facing fears and really just having a lot of fun. And people come there, that's like their getaway for the year, where they come to just have an amazing time as a family and play in the mountains and just enjoy that amazing environment. So um, when COVID came along, this whole industry took a bit of a knockback, and it meant that I couldn't get working visas and things like that. It was all at a standstill. So I was at this point where I had to, I had to reassess my life and find out another way to do things. Basically, I moved to Denmark with my partner, who's from here, and we actually, in that time, in those few years that we moved here, we got a baby boy who's now 2.5. So when he came along, I was like, yeah, the ski game is probably not going to happen again. It's not particularly family friendly, so at least in that form. And yeah, so it left me trying different things. I studied graphic design, illustration. I done carpentry, builder as well. Just exploring things that I've always wanted to do and seeing if that was my new thing. But nothing really filled the filled the void of that connection you get with people that I had in the ski industry and training new ski instructors and things like that. And that like exploration together, that excitement. And so when I came to making a social media profile and talking about things that I'm interested in and met you, it was all with a view to exploring like a way to get this side of my life back and really just explore what it was that was missing. And what it came down to was, yeah, the people, and also starting to share like the inward journey that I've been on that was happening this whole time as I was traveling and adventuring and playing. I was also always had a parallel interest in what's really going on in this experience and what are we all doing here, what's happening. And I thought now is a good time to actually start sharing that and opening that up with people. And I found, along with the connection to people, that was really what was trying to come out with me. I wanted to talk with others about what's going on and who we are and what's trying to come out of us and expression and things like that. So,
Mm.
yeah, that's a lot of what I do. And, now working with people in basically in that same environment, like an explorative sense, like it was on the mountain, to understand fear and what's holding people back, and what they want to become, and who they want to be, and who they want to show up as. And it seems like I've come on a big full circle, you know?
Yeah, it's a wonderful description. It really shows the difficulty in pinning down anyone with labels. We so often identify ourselves with what we do. And I'm curious, Joel, how did you get into, because a theme that's recurring in your narrative when you talk about yourself and what you do is exploration. So
Mm,
what does the mountain mean to you? Like what happened? Like how did you get into the skiing? Was it
yeah,
you as a child? Did you start skiing and did you loved it? And
yeah. That's such a beautiful question, man, because it's something that to me speaks to my essence, you know, the playfulness and exploration, and the mountains for me have always represented that. I grew up in an area with hills and things like that. I used to compete in mountain running, and I just always be playing outside. And we tried a bit of skiing as kids, and I just loved it. It set me completely alight. And we did like 1 week this one time. And from then on, all I wanted to do was go back, right? I just knew when I got the chance to make my own choices in my life's direction, that's what I would be following. But it's it's something that I've noticed in other people as well. Is like this sense of aliveness when you're in the mountains, or you're in an environment that is new, and let's face it, like it's extreme. You know, you're on the edge. Like people can seriously do damage to themselves, like in the worst kind, in these environments. Like it can happen very quickly, right? And to me, that's embracing that side of like of life, and the temporality of it. That really, to me, that's like a dance with what we are. You know, it's like it helps me understand who I am better. And I think that's why people find it so enlivening and incredible to be in these places, is because they realize they are not this container that they've made for themselves. There's so much more available to us than that. And we, when we're in those environments, you know, we get to the edge of that container very regularly, and more than we might in our everyday life. And this idea of who you are is really, it starts to, the lines start to become kind of blurred in those environments, you know, or in those situations. So yeah, I really appreciate that question, because you're giving me like a chance to reflect on things that I maybe haven't
yeah,
put my finger on before, you know, or expressed before.
what's the best mountain you've skied on?
The best one,
Top three.
yeah, you know, there's a place in Japan. It's called Rusutsu, and it just has the most incredible snow, the deepest snow that I've ever skied. There's something about that feeling, man, that is like irreplaceable. Like I've just never, never found that physical feeling anywhere else. And other than, you know, from an external source, if you know what I mean. Um, this feeling of floating through the snow, like it's bottomless, almost as if you're flying, uh, or just floating on clouds, you know. So that's probably the best experience I've had on skis, was there. So it's up there.
So exploration and not questioning perhaps, but expanding your identity, not holding it too uh, constrictively, but allowing it to simply adapt and be and not even think so much about it. That's what you do in the mountains. That's what you have done, right?
Mm.
uh, and facing your fears. Like, what would you say are the top lessons that you bring from your experience as uh, a skier? Yeah.
You know what really jumps out at me first is this idea of, it comes back to who we are again, because I think who we are really, like I was alluding to before, really relates to those limits we put on ourselves. And we have this kind of game going on all the time where, how much do I dare to stretch those limits? And the more you play that game, the more fun you can have with it, and the more you can jump out and try something new and throw yourself into it. And I think the biggest lesson for me has been, and that I've taken from that, is that you really set, first of all, you set those limits, and you really are capable of so much more than you can ever imagine. And when you go and do it, it's as if it was nothing. It's as if you always were that being, like it was always your way of being. So ultimately, the lesson that it's come back to, this might be another lesson, is that who we are really is whatever the story we tell ourselves, and whatever we understand or even imagine ourselves to be. The line between that imagination, that future image of ourselves that we could be, and the physical world that you see yourself in now and experience around you, is so much thinner than we give it credit for. We can, you know, by the way of our own thought processes of our ego, we can really make that line feel very defined, almost feel like we're in a box, would be the typical analogy. But that box is, well, let's face it, it's not there.
And how do you expand your limits if you're used to this narrative, the box? Because the box can be very cozy, it can be very, if it feels secure. You might be not so like, I think a lot of people at some point, if they live in a box their entire life, at one point or another in their life, they will feel, okay, I want more. This is, that voice at night when you go to sleep. Is this it? Like that will come at some point in your life, and it will be expressed in different ways, whether it's in your mid 30s or early 30s or 40s. It will come when you
Mm,
start questioning what you're doing, who you are, why you have made the choices that you have made in the past. But for a person who is, I guess, fully present with the box and is in the limit and actually feels, okay, this is the limit and this is what I have and this is, I'm afraid to stepping outside of this box. I'm afraid of expanding this box. I'm afraid of even seeing that this box is just, it's not really there. Because I fully agree with you. Those are the limits that we have. We put on ourselves. It can come from conditioning in childhood and from the feedback we get from the environment that we live in currently, not only like from the past, right? So what would you say to a person who is struggling with this? They want to expand their limits, but at the same time they're afraid. They're afraid. They're really afraid.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Ultimately, um, I really feel this box is a real gift
Mm.
in one way. Um, to me, it is being human. So to me, it's not necessary to hate this box or perceived limitations, because if we just threw it away, like many people will have in say a psychedelic experience or an experience in really deep meditation where that box goes away. If that box just went away, suddenly this framework that you've got of everything you really wouldn't know what you were anymore. So that would be like equally as terrifying, and you'd really be losing all the beauty of this human experience that we're having, of like everything following one step after another, at least in the way we make it up in our minds, and everything feeling familiar and um, you know uh, feeling at home, and these things. These are all possible because of that box, and this framework that we create. So it really is it really is a beautiful thing to, and we should be thankful for it. But um, if we want to start to look at, if say we've got like there's a desire for more or to understand more, to me it's really about honoring that part of ourself that is pulling us in that direction. And I feel that the more we honor this dialogue with that part of ourself that's expansive, the more we lean into that and move towards it and follow its guidance. It could be the tiniest thing. It could be you spot a synchronicity in your life. You know, um, I've had some wild, but like I had some on X the other day. There's this someone I follow on X, and I really like the stuff she writes about self improvement, right? And I went into the supermarket, and the girl at the checkout, I was like, she looks so familiar, and then couldn't put my finger on it at the time. And then I was riding along, and there was this it's like shop or a wellness. I think it's a wellness center just down the street from me. I'd never seen it before in my life. I was riding my bike. I was riding past pretty quick, and the name of the shop was the same name as this person I'm following on X. And the person who was in the supermarket at the register was this. It was her that she looked like. So I reached out to this person, and I was like, look, I don't know what this means, but I'm just reaching out. And so we had a conversation, and we had a call, and we got to know each other a little bit. Where that's going, I don't know. But my point is that when we start to honor this side of ourselves and take it more seriously, then we start to be guided in maybe small steps at first that we can take to explore and expand that box. And as you get more confidence in that conversation and communication, the channel opens up. They start to become bigger, and you start to naturally expand and grow this box as you honor it without losing everything, and just completely alienating yourself from life and feeling like, because this is the risk on the other end, to just feel like everything is pointless and meaningless.
And in my experience, we all have these signs in our daily lives that pull us in certain directions. When we are in the shower, you feel the pull, you have a thought, you have an idea. You're out for a run, same thing. Like when you're just mindlessly doing something or not focused, you're not doing any focused work, or not watching TV, or maybe doing something else that's entertaining your mind, so to speak. When you're just mindlessly during the day, or maybe dissociating from your own experience, like you're daydreaming kind of thing, right? There are those small signs. That's my experience, at least. This small signs within yourself, whether it's a small voice, your internal monologue or dialogue, whether it's a sensation in your body, whether it's a conversation that you have and you realize, okay, something wants to be heard here. And those are the things that we need to, like, I used to not take that seriously. I used to not do that at all. I used to just shove it down, right? Not listening to it. So what would you tell a person who is like, in your personal experience, how has that worked for you? Do you have, like, you just gave us a great example of how you found somebody on X, but can you give another example of how in your past, how that has played an important role for you, if you remember something? Or
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm following these things all the time, and it's like we have this egoic relationship, this egoic mind, which many of us will cloud that. It will try and it, really it's that limitation program that we're talking about. Like, really, what it is it's creating that box for you, and so it has its place for survival and things, but there is this other side to us beyond that, which you know these messages, like you're saying, these synchronicities come through, and it's in following them that I've found that has allowed me to move beyond that box and outwardly. And some examples of that would be, um, honestly, how I met my partner. Um, we'd already met like many years before. I was here in Copenhagen with visiting a friend, and we went up this. He was like, "What do you want to do whilst you're here?" And he showed me some pictures of things you could do. And there's this like spiraling church tower which you can go up. It's like a spiral staircase on the outside. It's really cool if you're ever in the city here. Like, such a great
Yeah.
viewpoint and just an incredible piece of architecture as well. But so we went up there. I took a photo of him, and I rarely posted on social media at this time, but I took a photo of him, posted it online, and the lady who I'm now with, right, saw this, and she was like, "What are you doing? You're in my hometown." We hadn't spoken in like 5 years at this point, and within the picture was literally her neighborhood. So we met up. She reached out. We met up, and we actually, like, we just we had some beers, and you know we went our separate ways. I was getting on the plane, and it 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 got us back on that direction. It made us. It was the step that brought us together in the long run when you look at things, and just So, but for me, there's been some really big ones. I mean, another example recently is Frank, right, from on X. I think you've spoken to him on
Yeah.
here as well. And
Yeah.
so Frank, for me, has been such an incredible influence in um, helping me really pinpoint what this whole thing is that's been trying to come out of me. And
Mhm.
um, how I met Frank was literally by following one of these hunches. I was on X, and I saw it was pretty much just his profile picture. Something about that just stood out to me, and the way the energy that was coming through that. And to me, that's really what this all is. It's energy. We're all we're just drawn to certain things based on what we're putting out and whether it's a match. And I reached out and I said, I don't know what. I think he shared the message before. I was like, I don't know why, but something's just telling me we're gonna talk at some point, and we did, and we ended up working together. And I'm where I am now is in a really big part thanks to his influence and our collaboration together. So the more I take these seriously and I lean them into them, the more incredible things seem to happen to me. So
Yeah.
yeah. How about you? Have you got any cool stories like about synchronicities for you?
I absolutely do. uh, Absolutely do. Well, actually, this is how I met my wife. Like, when you were talking, I was thinking about how I met my wife, and then I was thinking about the scene from Good Will Hunting with Robin Williams, and how he was when he like talked to Matt, like when he was speaking to Matt Damon, who was his patient at the time. And have you seen the movie?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No. If
anyways,
I
so he's a psychologist. So he's a psychologist, and Matt Damon is like a brilliant genius, but he's like wasting his life working getting into like doing small criminal acts, and so he's getting into trouble all the time. And then he's discovered by a math genius and realizes that he's like really really smart. So when he's able to solve math problems like at MIT that graduate students are struggling with, and he's doing it like very easy. But then he has this other aspect of himself where he gets into trouble all the time, and so he talks to to Robin Williams, who's a psychologist at the time in this movie, and he tells him about a baseball game. That's apparently it's a very big game. It's a famous historical game, and Robin Williams was he had tickets to the game, and then they talk about the experience, like the game was there, and like he shot the ball. I don't know anything about baseball, but he shot the ball, and it was apparently like a last minute win for the Red Sox or something, for their team. He's like, and then he's like, but I didn't go. He's like, what? You didn't go? You had tickets and you didn't go? Yeah. He's like, I had to see about the girl. So he had also followed one of his hunches, one of it like intuition, where he had seen a girl, and he instead of going to the game, he went to a bar with a girl, and he had some beer with her, and ended up being his wife. And he didn't regret the moment, right? He followed his hunch. And it was a similar thing for me in my like when I met my wife. It was like I saw her on social media. Like we have common friends, right? And she lived in the States, and it looked like I didn't know that she was going to move to Sweden with her family. So I saw her on social media, and there's something about her. Uh, so I started connecting with her on social media, and then all of a sudden, like she's moving to my town where I live, and so I met with her. She moved here, so she moved to my
What?
town with her family, with her parents and siblings. And then I met with her, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna marry this girl. I said it like the moment I saw put my eyes on on Facebook, like I'm gonna marry this girl. I knew it, like deep down I knew it, and obviously like
Mm.
at the time you don't know for 100%, but I feel like I had the sense that this is it, and it turned out like we've been married for 13 years now, uh, and so we've known each other for that was 15 years ago, or that was 15 years ago when
Wow.
we first met, and we've been married for 13 years. 13 years, yes, this year. So that's like one of the things that I always think back to. That was truly intuition, something that I listened to, and it guided me. Um, I think. And then another thing, like I did like a silent meditation retreat a while ago, a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and sitting with myself, with my own discomfort, in complete silence, with no connection with the external world whatsoever, no input. It's like turning off a faucet of water, and no input from phone, from computers, even with those that also were at the retreat, like no input, no communication with like this or bodily communication, just you and yourself, and sitting on a cushion or a chair, and just sitting with yourself and listening to, noticing what's going on inside of you, in your body. It was, for me, transformational because I realized, today I can say I realized that I've been living in my head like most people do, I think, most of my life, without any conscious connection with my entire body. And and I realized that I started hearing my internal dialogue, the scripts, limiting beliefs that I had, continue to have as well. It's not like you do it once and then it's gone. It repeats. It's there still. And that was a beginning journey for me, how to expand life in a sense that started noticing what's going on, what I want, trying different things, not instinctively running away from discomfort, but sitting with the discomfort when it's there, because behind the discomfort there is something. uh, when you push down discomfort, and usually discomfort shows up in your body, and then there's a script that's there, right?
Mm.
And when you sit with the discomfort and allow it to simply flow, focus on it and simply breathe and allow it to be there and feel it, tune into it. It usually goes away after a while because no sensation is eternal, right? It just comes and goes. It's like the ripples or the waves on the ocean. Sometimes it's stormy, other times it's very calm and peaceful. But allowing myself to step into that and tuning into that and being with that has been transformational for me. It has helped me to tune more into this intuitive guide that's within. Because I think that like the human experience is not only the brain. And in the West, ever since I think René Descartes is like a philosopher and from the 17th century who is usually blamed for this. We said, the famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Ever since, like, has been a highlight, and especially also the Enlightenment period. In the West, we have focused so much on rational thought that everything else has been miscredited and devalued, and the body is not like, why should you even listen to it? Like, it's only recently that we started listening to, okay, emotions are important, feelings are important, and that was me also. And that's, I think, a lot of people are there. There's a disconnect between your mind and your body, and there's a big wisdom in your body, because the human experience is so much more than simply what you can think. It's only part of it. It's important what you think, but it's only part of it. Yeah. So that was a long answer to to your question. But I have a question. Like, I'm a licensed social worker. I have worked with rituals, a PhD in religious studies. I've studied psychology, philosophy, and something that I come back to often, over and over again, it's attachment theory. John Bowlby is founder of attachment theory. It's basically used to describe the relationship between primary caretakers and their children, and how and different kinds of relationship themes, patterns, and the ideal, which nobody has really. It's the ideal pattern of behavior is called secure attachment. It's when the parent or the primary caretaker is attuned, mostly attuned, not all the time, but mostly attuned to the needs of the child and meets the needs of the child. And the child can also rely on the parent. The parent is predictable. The child knows that if something happens, the parent will be there. And John Bowlby described life in the following way. If you have a secure attachment, he said that life is an exploration, life is a series of explorations from a secure base. And secure base being the primary caretaker. And this is not only relevant for kids, it's also relevant for you as an adult. If you learned as a child that, for example, your needs will not be met, I have to meet my own needs. I have to find a way to fill myself. Like, if I'm crying, nobody's gonna come and soothe me and comfort me and console me. You may develop if this is a recurring pattern, you may develop a avoidant, for example, attachment style where you close in. You stop crying because nobody's gonna come in, so I have to soothe myself. And that what the brain does essentially is to disconnect your hurt from your conscious experience, and so you develop this avoidant attachment style. And I think that's like, for me, that's what happened to me, I think. And what I'm asking is basically, because you say the box is important, it's a gift even. Because like, if you think about back to your own experience as a skier, as a ski teacher, uh, explorer, what's your experience of the secure base?
Wow, man. First of all, thanks for everything you just shared. It's beautiful to hear your story. Yeah, this idea of a secure base. Okay, yeah, that's a really interesting thing to open up. So, to me, it can come in many forms, and I feel like over the years, much like yourself, I've had different ideas of what that is. And, at a point that would be like being at home in familiar surroundings with familiar people around you and things like that. But when I really looked into that, it was not really. I think part of us really craves that security and that feeling of familiarity. But for me, when I look at that and I really assess it, I started to feel like there must be more. And in setting off by myself to just like travel around the world, started to see it a little differently. And because this idea of security, it's only an idea that we create in our minds, right? Which means we can really choose what's secure to us once we have that awareness. And the secure base is really based on your past and what's known, because it really only can be that. You have to know these things to that illusion of security. But when I stepped out of that and spent prolonged time in changeable places, it's like something else came up from underneath, which was always there all along, which was the real sense of security. And that was the sense of what I truly am, beyond all of these ever-changing labels. And, Joel, like the name, like, when I was born, I wasn't Joel until they wrote that name on my birth certificate or anything, right? So really there's one level of security, which is like everything we've known before. But to me, what I was really looking for is something that's ever present. And to me, that real feeling, and I mean, you can call it security, whatever you want. It's just a label. And but what I really found that to be was this sense of what I truly am, which is really hard to put into words. It's an embracing of not knowing. It really turned out to be the opposite. It was a knowing that whatever I do and wherever I go, everything's going to be okay. It was like, it was a faith in that which I am, whatever that might be. And I mean, where I'm at right now, I'm at a point where I see that as everything. Everything I see around me is me. It's reflected within the experiencer that's in Joel in here looking out, right? And so it really, to me, this idea of this idea of secure base can be met on various levels. And I think that familiarity and that consistency is really important when we're growing up. For example, I was lucky in my parents. They weren't together, but they were both very loving and supportive. And so I had that secure base. And I think in terms of like familiarity, and I was in quite a, I was in a calm area in the countryside, and it was quite idyllic growing up in that way. It wasn't all rosy all the time, but there was things, but on the whole, like, it was very secure. So I felt like that was exactly what I needed then. But then it's also, when you really look at it, it's an illusion. And there's this other level of security underneath, which, when I look out into the world and I see a lot of people struggling with life, really, and not feeling okay about what they're going through, I feel like that is that thing that they're really searching for, is getting to know not who they are, but what they really are.
And to respond to that, I think that the secure base idea in a child, it's a primary caretaker because they need literally the primary caretaker for their survival, and not only physical survival, but also for their emotional and well-being and everything. But the good part is, as the secure child grows up, they interiorize that secure base. So that feeling that I'm okay, that I will be okay, that I'm able to, that I can, uh, it's here, comes from underneath. And you can change that type of pattern if you haven't grown up in such an environment. You can change it as an adult. It takes time. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely possible. And the pathway there, I think, is sitting with your discomfort. That's one way, at least. And because then all of a sudden you realize, I do not need X, Y, and Z in order to thrive. I thrive. Maybe I'm successful in what I want to do and what I do, but it's not because of some kind of external secure base. It's because I can, because I want to, because I feel this sense of safety. At the same time, I think relationships are so important still, even as an adult. And having a secure attachment style where I do not seek from my wife to meet my needs as if I am Gabriel, who is 11 years old, right? Because that's the danger if you do not work on yourself, and if you have an insecure or avoidant or anxious filled attachment style. If you haven't felt worked on yourself so that you are that secure base for yourself, what will happen is that you will search in your relationship, whether it's in a partner, a wife, a husband, or friend, whatever. You will search for that emotional need, that hole within you, to be met in some way. And it can make you very successful, I think. Like a lot of people that have that hole within themselves, they strive and they work their asses off, even into burnout, in order to to get that approval, for example. But it comes from the sense of hole within. Can be. So I think it's important to have exactly what you described, to get to the point where you have this sense that I feel secure within myself. And whether it's an illusion or not, I think everything is in one sense it's a perception, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's more than a perception. It's also an emotion. It's a feeling that I am secure in myself. For example, I'm okay. I actually love myself. Creating from that position is and being from that position is wonderful. And you'll still struggle. No, that doesn't mean that life is just joyful. Life is still messy. Can be messy. But even if it's messy, it's okay. You'll manage it, right? I have a question about the mountain, the environment. Because I think when it comes to exploring, expanding, the physical environment can have a huge impact on you. It's easy to face your fears: fear of height, fear of speed, fear of almost being close to death because you're skiing right when you're up on a mountain. So I think you have lived a life on the edge in that sense, right? In one sense, even though you have probably amazing skier, obviously, since you have done this for a long time and so on. But tell me about the meaning of the physical environment for you in exploring, expanding.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's not only in me that I'm being pushed. It's in watching my students or my guests, right, and seeing them in these positions where they could really, they could die, and being able to let them go and experience that and have trust in themselves and do that. It's like that's something that working with other people has also shown me. But yeah, in terms of the environment, like it's it's again, it's a reflection of you. You know, for all the highs you go, for all the extremes you go to, it's matched on an internal level in the other direction, in a deepening of your awareness of yourself. So what I mean by that is like, and it's a lot like what you're saying with sitting with your discomfort is, you know, you're at the top of a line which is scaring you, or you're in the terrain park, or you want to jump off a cliff on your skis, and you have to sit with um, this fear, and you have to say it shows you that it's something up here, it's something that you created. You're thinking of the risks and the consequences, and it gives you the opportunity every time you face that to say, do I believe this is true, or do I believe there can be another way? And you're constantly confronted by your own limitations and this framework within you. So um, however extreme the environment gets out there, it reflects back inward to you, and you have to go deeper and deeper and find that faith within yourself to go beyond. So it's a tool, and it's a beautiful tool, but it's and I would have, a few years ago I would have said like, this is the only way for me, but now I see there's many ways you can leverage this relationship. You know, I see people doing it, and myself in business. I see it in relationships. I see it in um, still the physical world, just in different environments. And it's, you know, I play when I stopped skiing, I came here and into Denmark, and there's obviously no mountains. I started playing capoeira because I always
Mm.
wanted to. I always was interested in it, and just the way they move and the flow and things like that. And you know, I find the same reflection from that environment into myself. You know, when the kick is coming towards you, and you got to move out the way so you don't get, yeah, you don't land one in the face. Um, it's all around us, and I think another arena where it is which really took me by surprise is the coaching environment. You know, and like what I've done with people who have coached me, but also what I'm doing with the people that I'm working with, and you have this space to let out whatever it is that's restricting you at the time, and whatever it is you're feeling, and to be very honest about that, and it it's reflected back at you, and you get to see it
Yeah.
for what it is, and you get to say like, is this real to me? Do I want to stop here, or is there something on the other side that I'm being pulled towards, which is more compelling?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah,
We've
the
talked
mountain
about,
environment is, oh
yeah.
yeah, I was going to
So
say
go
the
ahead.
mountain environment has like shown me what that relationship is, but I've come to realize, you know, it's really, it's everywhere in everything we do.
Yeah. Our human experience is embodied, isn't it? So it means that it's not only in the head, it's in the body. What you believe is highly connected to the physical environment. If you live in an environment that physically constricts you, that will probably also affect how you think about yourself and the environment. But my question would be: we have talked about limiting beliefs, and we hear this often on social media and in other places as well. When we talk about mindset and beliefs or limiting beliefs, and you said something about, do I believe this? Do I believe this limit to exist or not? So the belief is the key here. It's not the thought. It's not the thought, I can't do this. It's the question, do I believe I can't do this? And a powerful way that one could like use to refrain learn to reframe. First of all, you have to be conscious of the beliefs that you have, and it takes time to listen to be aware of the scripts that you have inside of yourself. But the second part is like, once you are aware of this, oh, this is a script. I'm listening to my mind, and it's actually a dark place. Like,
Mm,
obviously, I'm being anxious because I'm thinking all these thoughts of how I can't, and about how the environment is hostile, how I can't trust people. Like, these are beliefs I have. It's not only thoughts that I have. Obviously, I'm gonna be anxious. Obviously, it's gonna affect my conscious experience, or my embodied experience, my physicality, right? And we know today that, like, it even leads to physical diseases in the chronic diseases in the long run, if you have these kinds of thoughts, and if you don't work with your emotions and so on. So what's a way that a person who has I've become aware of my conscious scripts, or of my scripts that I have, the thoughts that run in my mind. How can I challenge my beliefs? How can I change my mindset in such a way? Because I don't think it's about limiting beliefs. I think it's more about beliefs in general. You choose what you
mm.
believe in. And how can you change that? How can you change if my entire experience, all my life, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old, I'm 40 years old, and I have had this belief my entire life? How can I change that belief? Is it changing of belief, or is simply allowing myself to have the thought, to think the thought without attachment to the thought? What's your experience in that?
I see this as there's various options, but it really does come back to, do I buy this thought or not? Like you're saying, the attachment to the thought. So I think really for me the key has been actually being conscious of it in whatever form it takes, and allowing it to come to the surface to be viewed. So um, and it could come from anywhere. It could be it could be a thought that you get regularly. It could be a sensation in your body. So it's really like, to me, the first step is having awareness of your inner environment, and then again it could even be your outer environment. Like, there's a trigger somewhere. It could be like, I don't know, you see a dog and you're scared and you jump away, or you have like a pain in your, or a tightening in your body when you're in a certain environment, or you get a particular thought coming up. So for me, the first thing is becoming aware of something. And then I have this kind of analogy that's coming up, which is like, there's like a wall with a sticker on it, and this sticker is the belief, and you're the wall, and it's like you're peeling this sticker away. And the more you can separate yourself from this thing, the less hold it has over you. And I think, depending how deeply rooted it is, that can take varying amounts of time. But it's like you're creating this space between you and that thing, and that attachment starts to fall away. So whether I think some great ways for that to happen, for that process to happen, is journaling. To whatever it is that's coming to you, just allow yourself to write about it, and to see it there on the page, unattached to you, without the emotional impulse to it, is a huge start, because it's really the emotional response to it that we fear, right? That stops us from facing it. So yeah, it could be journaling, it could be just talking about it, like, in this kind of environment, or with anyone who's, you could talk to yourself out loud about it. But I think the point is that you're not in an environment where you're adding to that dialogue. So there's no friction. And I think this is the value of coaching, is that it's that space where that person's going to take you for whatever you are, and they're not going to add to this dialogue, and you just start to see it for what it is, and naturally just having awareness on something it's like there's ice, it's like an icy blockage within you, and that awareness is like the sunlight shining on that ice, and it starts to melt and drip away gradually.
Beautiful. Joel, what did I not ask that I should have asked you?
I really nothing's coming up, man. I really feel like that's the beauty of a space like this. You meet each other halfway, and you see what comes up. And you've asked me a lot of things that I would never have expected to answer, and I've answered a lot of, I've spoken about things that I would never have expected to speak about. So I think I think it's been perfect, man. There's nothing I feel like is missing.
Appreciate that. It was a wonderful space. I agree with you. If people want to reach out to you and find you, where can they go and find you?
Yeah, I think the best place to find me right now is on X, and my handle is probably a bit challenging. It's
I will put it in the show notes anyway. So
That's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
individual, but this may change. This may change soon.
Okay.
And I also have the domain explorationalive.com.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you search Exploration Alive on X, you'll probably find me through doing that. So there's a website on the way to that'll be connected to that domain soon. But I'm relatively new in this thing, and I'm building things as I go. So yeah, we can expect that to be the best place for all of my world to be combined in one spot.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joel, for this conversation. I truly, truly appreciate you, and I'm grateful that you gave me this time to co-create this beautiful space.
I feel exactly the same way, man. I really appreciate our conversations and the way you reflect on things and bring things out of me that I didn't know were there, honestly. So, thank you for creating this space and sharing these messages from all these people with the world.
Yeah.
Love what you're doing,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.